Uh, Good afternoon to all of you. Actually, I have sent the uh, meeting ID saying that I will be discussing the synthetic theory of evolution. But now I came to know that there are many things left in the discussion on evidences for evolution. So, first, let me uh, continue with the evidences of evolution, and then, if time permits, let me move on to the synthetic theory of evolution. Otherwise, we will complete this evidences first, and then in the next class we can move on to the synthetic theory of evolution. One thing actually, what's happening is we are uh, marching fast, especially in this online class. What happens? There is no interaction with the students, and there is no board work. Only we are talking. Uh, so as a result of that, we are moving very fast. Uh, so that's why we should be little slow. If there's an interaction, that's well and good. So in the very beginning, I will try to continue from where I have stopped. In the last class we have discussed about some of the evidences regarding the evolution, because it is very hard to believe if there are no evidences in support of evolutionary theory. We have studied evolutionary theories, different theories, and we are yet to study many more theories also. But in the middle, if we stop and think, is there any evidence for this evolution? Or otherwise, everything becomes more hypothetical or philosophical. So that's why we are trying to search for evidences. In that, in the last class, we have tried to study under some homologous organs, analogous organs, vestigial organs, and all of them help us in understanding and appreciating the theories of evolution. So today we will continue with uh, these same uh, evidences. Now, the evidence for evolution, the fossil record. Actually, these are the evidences, the fossil record evidences are the most important and most acceptable uh, evidences, I can say. What are fossils? Fossils are the remnants of the organism which lived in the remote past. So, in the past, there were so many organisms have lived. How do we say that dinosaurs were there in the Jurassic period, or so many other organisms were there? Because now we get some fossil records, because they got buried in the sediment of the earth crust, and either the entire animal or the portion of those organisms, animals or plants, we get now when we excavate, and based on the carbon dating, we can identify their age also, and by that we come to the conclusion that they are the fossils, and they were the organisms which lived so many million years back, 1,000 years back, or 100 years back. So this evidence is the most important evidence in the and more convincing evidences. So these are called as the fossil records. So now see, this is one fossil record that is available for the horses. We say that present day horses evolved from the most simplest short uh, horse like organism, what we call hierarchotherium. How do we understand that? See, this is the evolution of horse. This is the present day horse equus, and this is the what you call the hierarchotherium. In between, there are so many other intermediates. Fortunately, as far as the evolution of horse is concerned, complete uh, fossil records are available. They are at the different geological time scale. In the Eocene period, it was the Hyracotherium. Then, then in the Oligocene, it was uh, another horse, and in Meso Miocene period, the horse was like this. In Pliocene, it was like this. And in the present day, it is like a recent, what you call the Andes. So that is starting from what you call the Hyracotherium to the present day Equus. This is uh, everywhere in the different strata of the earth crust. we got the record. So that's why we can say that these are the ones which are available. Um, and this is how the horse have evolved. Where you can justify that based on the fossils they are available. So like this, these fossils are much more common, and now we can get, even we got many fossils and still we are getting the uh, fossils in when we undertake the excavation or any other things. So and once we get the fossil record, it is easy to convince, especially with respect to the origin of a species which are seen now, and how that underwent the diversification over a period of time. But for every organism, we don't get the fossils. Fossils, um, sometimes we get, sometimes we do not get. In some we get in very with all clarity. For example, as I have told you with the Hyraco, this as far as the horse evolution is concerned, but not with the evolution of any other organism. Even if you take the human evolution, it is not very clear like the horse evolution. Uh, then uh, we will also understand who are our cousins, who are our niece, all those things, because the fossil records are available of diversification. One time, horse, rhinoceros, and tapirs were very close, but later they got diversified. Even from a common ancestor known as are known, and once showing the origin. Even we say that birds evolved from reptiles. How do we justify? Because of the fossils that are available even today. So based on these factors, we have to come to the conclusion or find the evidence for this evolution. So whales, we say that they were a land-dwelling organism, and later uh, they have migrated to water. So all those things are fine provided we have some evidences. And we always search the evidence and get the evidence uh, when we get the fossil records. So one thing, see, this is the evidence uh, when you look into uh, especially the mammals and especially the mammals. We say that even mammals are also evolved from reptiles, especially the theropsid reptiles. The fossil records show that, especially all, not all the bones are available, mostly the jaw bones will give you how these mammals evolved from reptile by comparing that bones. Uh, So here we can also see the variation through the geological period. For example, even if you take the human being, how he was something 2000 years back, 1000 years back, 500 years back, and recent, where you can compare. Uh, Usually, the fossils in the most recent strata, upper strata of the earth crust, we call it as the our closest ancestor, the one which are living in the older strata, we call it as the our own they are also our ancestors, but long back, and later so many diversification have taken place. uh, to give an example, see, this must be a common ancestor. From there, two line evolved. One line gave rise to rhinoceros, and second line gave rise to horse and zebra and tapir. Again, somewhere there, one line diversified into horse and zebra, another into tapir. Somewhere here again, horse and zebra got separated. So all these things are very well documented with the help of the. This is the cladogram showing the relationship. So, especially in the fossils, the most interesting and complete is the horse and their relatives. Fossil studies of the living being, even if you observe, there's a close relationship between rhinoceros, horse, tapir, and zebra. There's a close relationship because all of them have evolved from a common ancestor, and that is evident as well as justified when we look into back, especially the fossil records, and even we can find out where they got diversified and where they uh, developed into separate species. Everything is more evident as far as these fossils are made available. When the differences have become more evident and all those things. So even if you want to know the evidence for the natural selection itself, forget about the entire evolution. Even Darwin himself has closely collected 14 finch species of the Galapagos Island, where they were all similar except in the beak characteristics. And he correlated it with the hypothesis that different beak shapes are related to their food feeding activity. Uh, and even their ancestors are also available in the form of fossil records. And these fossils are preserved remains, once living organism. Uh, Rock fossils with three event occur. The first, in order to happen, the fossil to happen, organism first should get buried. And usually when fossilization takes place, soft parts will be decayed. Some of the bones which are rich in calcium and other hard tissues, they are replaced by the minerals of the sediments, and then the surrounding sediment hardens to form a rock. So this is one small photograph of a fossil of a uh, bit like thing which has been solidified or hardened. So like this, we can once we get the fossils, we can go for absolute dating. Age of the fossil is estimated by the rate of radioactive decay. Even relative position of the fossil in the sediment. We know that if you analyze the sediment, in which time period that sedimentation has taken place, and if you see the animal in that sediment, we can directly correlate the age of the sediment with the organism which live. Even isotopes of uranium 238 and half life, you can by calculating the half life of the uranium, there also you can calculate. There are so many things, fossil evidence for evolution, usually amount of the parental isotope and the decay of the isotope, how it happens, the half time and half lives. So fossil records document, it will give you the first something based on that we can say that something 3,800 million years ago, first sign of life, 3,500 years ago, oldest fossil record that has been, the oldest fossil record that we got is something 3,500 years back. Then we got some animals at 2,700 and oxygen increase was having, and the oldest eukaryotes we got something 2,200 years back. Then for a considerable period of time, 2,200 million years to 600 million years, we don't get any fossil records till now. Then from 6,000 to present day, we have a lot of fossil records. If you see, we have the probably at something 600 million years back, diversification of multicellular life and algae must have taken place. In between 6,100 to 500 million years back, plants, vertebrates, all of them have evolved. Uh, this was the period where I am showing just something 425 million years back, colonization of land animals. some 300 million years back, all of you know, it was the golden age of reptiles where you can see um, dinosaurs, and during the same period, insects and amphibians were also there. So the extinction of the dinosaurs goes back to something 50 million years back or 75 million years back, all these dinosaurs. And now the first hominid must have evolved something at 10 million years back, like this. These are all fossil evidences are available. Based on the fossil evidence, we can reconstruct the history of origin of life. And in fact, we have done like that only. Then fossil documents of many of the evolutionary transition, because we know that we agree to the fact that birds are evolved from reptiles. But how do you justify that? Though there are many indirect evidences, but the fossils become the direct evidence. So there was one oldest known bird fossil was caught, what is known as Archaeopteryx. And this Archaeopteryx is considered as the connecting link between the bird and the uh, reptiles, for the very simple fact that they show the intermediate characteristic feature of both the bird and reptiles. They possess some ancestral traits of the reptiles as well as some present modern traits of present day birds. So this Archaeopteryx was first found in 1859 as a fossil record, not a living one. So based on that, we say that we justify that. Though we say we agree to the fact the birds have evolved from reptiles, but where is the concrete evidence? Then in 1859, we got a very concrete evidence in the form of Archaeopteryx fossil. This was the Archaeopteryx fossil which was in the photograph, and it was showing both the reptilian as well as the avian characters, um, sharing the characters of both the groups. So based on this, we say that we justify that the birds are evolved from reptiles. So that's why the fossils are the direct evidences. Even very recently, also we have collected so many recent discoveries. Four-legged aquatic mammal. Um, because tetrapods, then the four-legged ones are the common feature in the terrestrial habitat. But even we got some four-legged aquatic mammals. It's an important link between the whales and dolphins. Uh, and the land animal, because we say that whales, dolphins, porpoises, seals, they are all secondarily aquatic. Primarily they were mammals, and being a mammal they were the land animals. Maybe certain factors on the land must have forced them to move from land to water. But how do you justify this? Fortunately, now we got a four-legged aquatic mammal, and that is considered as a good connecting link between land and aquatic mammals. Even there were many fossil snakes with legs. Snakes belong to the reptiles. Being a reptile, they are tetrapods. They are the cousins of our lizards. Lizards are having legs, but snake is not having legs. But there are certain fossil snakes which we got with legs. Then this is another species that is uh, Tiktaalik. It's a named species. Nobody has seen that, but fossil we got it, and that is considered as uh, intermediate between fish and first amphibian. Because we also say that amphibians evolved from fishes. Then how do you justify? Because of this fossil, there's a Tiktaalik, which bridges the gap between the fish and first amphibian, and that is considered as the interlink or between the fish and amphibians. Even oysters, a lot of oysters, because as far as the fossils are concerned, we get a lot of gastropods, because gastropods are having calcareous shells, and it is hard, and the shells get preserved. Because I have told you the soft part is of any or animal, either it may be plants or animal, they will decay, but not the many of these shells, because of having the calcium carbonate, they are very hard. Even we have the fossil evidence for the evolution of this one. For example, see here I have uh, we have three four animals which you can see. Uh, this was the first animal, that is uh, Pachycetus. It's lived on the land, but the skull derived from that of its ancestors and exhibited many ancestral characteristics which are seen in our whales today. See how this is the how the whales have become. This is the land animal, and slowly it has changed into from land to water. See the change in the morphology and anatomy of this animal. um, that is the next stage. Then slowly the tails have been modified into a fin-like structure, and you can see the reduction in the forelimb and hind limb. Then the modern toothed whale. So all these fossil evidence are available. So as a result, by this we can say that the ancestors of the present day whales, though are aquatic, they are living in the water, and they are living on the land, but they have moved to the water later for for not known reason, I should say that. This evolution of horse, which I have already told you, that is all fossil records are available. Uh, Starting from Hyracotherium, uh, Mesohippus, Archaeohippus, Merychippus, Neohippus, Nanihippus, and Equus. See, this is how the evolution of the horse has taken place. There's a change in the leg, especially the four limbs structure, and all these things, evolutionary change, body size, toe, toe reduction is the main thing in the horses from Hyracotherium to the present day Equus. All fossil records are available here. After this fossil evidences, let's move on to the some of the embryological evidences. If you consider the embryology as an evidence in support of evolution, the very one important thing I would like to draw your attention is whatever may be the size of the animal, number of cells, or in other words, all our multicellular organisms, irrespective of their size, their our life starts from a single cell, the zygote. Even the life of an elephant or a blue whale starts with a single cell, what is known as zygote. This zygote undergoes cleavage and morula, blastula, and then metamorphoses into an adult one or changes into adult one. What does it indicate? The life of even the multicellular organism starts with a single cell, means all these multicellular animals have evolved from a unicellular organism, single cell organism. And uh, the zygote represents the unicellular stage. Then morula and blastula represents mostly colonial protozoans, whereas gastrula represent a coelenterate stage. Then afterwards, multicellular organisms, and they take the different shapes. And just you observe this photograph. I must have shown you in the last class also. I don't remember the embryonic development of any organism. Either you take the fish, salamander, or chick, frog, cat, adult, and human being. In the very early stages of the embryo, all embryos are looking alike. But when they grow, the cells differentiate and they take different size, shape, structure, and all those things. This common morphological feature in the early stages of embryo indicate some common ancestry must be there for all of us, and from that common ancestor we are diversified and evolved into present stage. There's one biogenetic law. that is proposed by Ernst Haeckel. After studying the sequence of embryo or the life history of an organism, the study of sequence of embryo or life history of an organism is called as ontogeny, and the evolutionary history of the individual is called as phylogeny. What he says, ontogeny of an individual repeats its phylogeny. Ontogeny of an individual repeats its phylogeny. Every organism recapitulates its ancestor through the embryo. We remember our ancestor by having a common type of embryo. Ontogeny. Ontogeny means, as I have told you, the life history, the embryological sequence of development. And phylogeny refers to evolutionary history. Ontogeny of an individual repeats its phylogeny. It shows how the life has evolved. And that is biogenetic law and also called as recapitulation theory. It's a very famous theory in evolution proposed by Ernst Haeckel. Uh, this biogenetic law proposed by Ernst Haeckel can be justified by many examples. You take the example of tadpole larva of a frog, and we agree to the fact that frogs, being an amphibians, evolved from fishes. You look at the larva, that's the tadpole. The tadpole of the amphibia, that is the frog, resembles the fish. I hope all of you have seen the tadpole, especially in the rainy season in the stagnant water body. And many times you confuse it for a fish by looking its appearance, morphology, and all those things. So a tadpole resembles fish both externally and internally because the tadpole contains two-chambered heart, respire through gills like the fishes. But the same tadpole larva metamorphosed into an adult frog later, and during its development, it remembers or recapitulates its coolest ancestor, the fish, through the tadpole larval phase. This suggests us the and indicates us that frogs are evolved from fishes. Even if you see the caterpillar larva of butterfly, caterpillars you must have seen many ಏನು ಕಂಬಳಿಗಳು in ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ you call it as. They are nothing but the larva of the butterfly. Uh, the larva of the butterfly that resembles an annelid. Like that, on the body you can see the segmentation, uh, and sometime may be hairy or sometime may not be, depending on that one. This butterfly development recapitulates the ancestor, the annelid ancestor, through caterpillar larva. So it also tells us that the butterfly was evolved from annelid. Even the development of four-chamber heart in the embryos of birds and mammals. Here I should make a comment. The four-chambered heart. If you we know that birds and mammals evolved from reptiles. Reptiles have incompletely four-chambered heart except a crocodile. Crocodile has four-chambered heart, but except crocodile, all other reptiles are having incompletely four-chambered heart. And even if you see the development of these birds and mammals, first in the embryo it is incompletely four-chambered, and when that metamorphoses into an adult embryo, then it becomes totally four-chambered. Some temporary embryonic, all embryos consist of some temporary embryonic organs. Uh, these are these organs may were present in their ancestors but absent in the adult, what we call the vestigial organs. Apart from the vestigial organs, there were many temporary embryonic vestigial organs. For example, the gill slits in the embryo of reptile, birds, and mammals. Gills are the characteristic feature of aquatic organism where they undertake the respiration with the help of gills. But the reptiles, birds, and mammals, we undertake the respiration with the help of lungs. But still, then, if you look into the embryo of the reptiles, birds, and mammals, there you will see the gill slits, pharyngeal gill slits. It's a very interesting fact. Um, Even the formation of teeth in the embryo of pigeon and whale. In pigeon, birds no teeth. Even in whale also there is no teeth. But in the embryo of a pigeon and whale, there's a teeth formation. Teeth are seen, but later they are discarded. Even the limbs, if you see the embryos of the snakes, embryos will have limbs, but later, of course, they will disappear. Uh, Even in human embryo, if you see, human embryo has a tail. Later, they are reabsorbed. What does it mean? The human beings evolved from an ancestor which was having tail. So that's why the embryos are showing the tail. So their presence explain this biogenetic clock. The phylogeny recapitulates the ontogeny. So these are the uh, some of the evidences uh, from embryology. Like embryological evidences, even we can have many physiological evidences also, where we talk about fundamental unity of life. One is all living beings are made out of cells. Uh, every cell consists of some of the common cell organelle like Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, mitochondria, chromosomes, RNA. In all living organisms, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. DNA is the hereditary material. Ribosomes perform the function of protein synthesis. What does it indicate? So all organisms must have evolved from a common ancestor. So we are having many common characteristic features, at least at the cellular level. The even the different types of biochemical reactions that occur in the living organisms. These reactions are same in all living organisms. Some chemicals differ. The enzymes, there are many enzymes which are common. Take the example of salivary amylase or any amylase. In all living organisms, the function of this amylase enzyme is to digest the carbohydrate. Trypsin is the enzyme which digests the protein in all organisms. So these are some of the evidences that we have must have been formed by some common ancestor. Even if you take the hormones, frog metamorphosis, that is from tadpole to adult frog, metamorphosis under the hormone thyroxine. Um, Even if you extract human thyroxine and inject thyroid free tadpole larva, it shows metamorphosis. This shows that thyroxine hormone is same in all the organisms. Even the hemoglobin, the one which carries oxygen and brings carbon dioxide in all animals. Oxygen binds with hemoglobin, becomes oxyhemoglobin. In birds, the oxyhemoglobin is identical. In all birds, the oxyhemoglobin is identical. That means all birds have a close relationship among themselves. So, like that, blood precipitation test. That is the antigen antibody reaction. One particular scientist by name Nuttall, he used rabbit for the synthesis of antibodies in order to find the relationship between man with other animal. What he did, he injected small amount of human blood into rabbit. Naturally, our blood is a non-self or foreign material to the rabbit, and uh, our blood stimulates the production of antibodies in the rabbit. Then he collected the serum of such rabbit, and the serum is called anti-human serum, and it was poured into the blood of apes, monkeys, and dogs. Then what happened immediately in the apes, monkeys, and dogs? The precipitation started. Blood, monkey, and dog, and uh, the clotting of the blood took place. What does it indicate? It indicates that all this anthropoid ape is close relative of man than monkey and dog, especially in the higher level of precipitation showed in the apes. So that means the anthropoids. apes, orangutans, or chimpanzees are more closer to us than the monkeys. So, blood pressure tests also reveal that bandicoots are close relatives to mice. So, these are certain examples from uh, the blood test. Then, geographical evidences. What do I mean by geography? Geography refers to the distribution of animals on the world. Biogeography refers to the distribution of living beings on the world. When I say geographical evidence, geography, it is the distribution of animals all over the world. Uh, See here, if you closely observe the fauna of Africa and Madagascar, all kinds of animals are not present in all the regions of the world. So the distribution of the animals are not uniform. Uh, though there may be climatic conditions may be same, but the fauna varies. To give an example, the fauna of Africa belongs to Ethiopian region, and that differs from the fauna of Madagascar region. But you know, Madagascar and Africa, they are present in the same subtropics. Because African fauna consists of lion, elephant, rhinoceros, chimpanzees, and gorilla, whereas Madagascar consists of primitive primates like lemurs. Uh, this by this what can be explained? By this we say that both the Africa and Madagascar were having the same fauna in the early tertiary period. But later, what happens because of the continental drift, Madagascar got separated from the mainland at the Africa, and in between there appeared a vast expanse of seawater. And these lemurs were unable to migrate into the new places and evolve into new individuals. Whereas the African fauna migrated to rest of the world, new regions, and they evolved into new individuals. But whereas these lemurs were confined to only to the Madagascar island, so there was not much evolution. Even fauna of Australia and South America, because the fauna of Australia and South America, they are climatically they are same, but uh, South America, which is in a neotropical region, it has bears, llamas, sloths, armadillos, etc. And Australia was separated from the mainland. There's the South America, where long before when the Prototherians and Metatherians were there. And this, when Australia got separated and become it is an island now. The animals from this Australian island couldn't migrate to the mainland. So they have to confine themselves only to this uh, island, where these animals in the mainland they have plenty of scope for migration into new climatic condition. Hence, they evolved into eutherian mammals, whereas uh, but not the organisms which are found in the Australian region. So the South America now have armadillos, bears, and all, but sloths and all, but not the Australia. These are how the separation, isolation, or continental drift uh, helped in the distribution of the animals. And even if we analyze them, then we will come to know that. Even if you look into the fauna of northern hemisphere, there is North America and Eurasia, they have the same fauna. Why? Because both these land masses are connected by a land isthmus. That's a bridge called Bering Isthmus. Hence, the animal from North America can migrated to Eurasia, and animals from Eurasia also migrated to North America. But now, recently, what has happened is This 56 mile long barren land isthmus was submerged into aquatic isthmus, and now it is very difficult for the land animals to migrate between North America and Eurasia. But if you analyze the present day animals of Eurasia and North America, lot of similarities you can see. Thus, this even the geographical distribution of the animals also support the theory of organic evolution. Then another interesting thing is the convergent evolution. What do you mean by this convergent evolution? The independent development of similar structure in organisms that are not directly related. If you look into two organisms which may look alike, but if you carry out the analysis at a certain level, you understand that they are not closely related, but now they look most closely related. This type of evolution, we call it as convergent evolution. Especially this is seen among the plants and animals which are living in the similar environment because the demand of the environment is same. So when for a long period of time, two different individuals belonging to two different evolutionary lineage, if they live in this common environment, they may show certain similarities. So a good example is the marsupials and placentals. You know, marsupials are the one which have the marsupium, which where the young ones are born in a most immature condition, and then they are kept in the pouch for further nourishment. Placentals, until they are very born, they are very safe in the uterus of the mother because there is a placenta. All this convergent evolution, you can see the they look Australian. This is the placenta. This is the mole, and this is the Australian marsupials. See their structural similarities. Nocturnal organisms, marsupial mouse, and so they are though they may be uh, looking alike, but they are very distantly related as far as their evolutionary history is concerned. Even ring-tailed lemur and spotted cuscus, flying squirrel and flying lizards are different, but if you look into them, they look similar. Even convergent evolution, fast-swimming predators also it has been seen, even in the fishes, where uh, a good example is the whale. Whale is a mammal, but it is an aquatic mammal. Over a period of time, what has happened? A land animal having four legs slowly evolved into a fish-like body. That is the good example for convergent evolution. Now, even if you see the whales, a common man will say it's a fish, unless you know it's a whale and it's a mammal and all those things. See, this is a whale. These are other fishes. How close similarity you observe with respect to their body structure, organs, mode of swimming, everything. Because it is the need, all of them are living in the same environment, they're the aquatic medium. So these are some of the evidences which are in support of evolution. So they help us in agreeing to the fact that evolution has taken place. Uh, this is what I wanted to discuss with you. And actually, I wanted to start the synthetic theory of evolution today only, but it's already 125. I think it is not fair because to start now, and of course, however, we are not lagging behind, we are already ahead of the schedule. Uh, we can be a little bit slow also. Absolutely, there is no problem. So now, still 2 3 minutes are left, or at least 5 minutes are left. Just you can have any doubts, if you have any doubts, or if you want any clarification, or if you want to talk to me or converse with me with respect to all these things what we have discussed, or anything, you the it is open. Just you tell me whether you follow the method of teaching or what else you want, all those things. Really, one by one, you can unmute your microphone and talk to me. Yes, Madhu, do you have any problem? Madhu,
No, sir.
no, sir, you are following.
No, yes, sir.
Any doubt or anything you want to say?
No, no doubt.
What about Spurti, Surya Lakshmi, Meghashri? Really?
No, sir. No doubt.
So it's easy. You are following what I am telling.
Ha. Yes, sir.
Okay. Probably ಇದಾದ ನಂತರ I will give you the write up. I will send you the write up with respect to this. But my earnest
Ha.
request for all of you, when you are free, how are you, those who are in Kumta and around, you can come down to the college and take the books and read. Eh, Don't fully depend on this online. Physical reading is very very essential, and I hope you will ಫಾಲೋ ಇಟ್. ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಇದನ್ನು ಕೇಳೋದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನೂ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಓಕೆ, ನೀವು ಒಂದೇ ಸರಿ ಬರಬೇಡಿ, ಒಬ್ರು ಇಬ್ರು ಬಂದು ಲೈಬ್ರರಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಬುಕ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಏನೂ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಆರ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್. ಕೆಲವು ಜನ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ.